Okay, so there's this brand new, pretty dense report from the US Senate that paints two very, very different pictures of our future. In one, AI is going to create this wave of prosperity like we've never seen. But in the other, well, it could trigger a job shockwave that would change everything. So let's break down what the report says and maybe more importantly, which path it thinks we're actually on. All right, let's just get right to the headline number, the one that kind of makes you stop and think. It's this: 97 million. That is the report's projection for how many U.S. jobs could potentially be replaced by AI and automation in just the next 10 years. It's a staggering figure, so let's dig into what that actually means for real people in real jobs. So, what does a 97 million job shift actually look like? Well, the report gets really specific. It projects that roles we literally see every single day are the most vulnerable. We're talking about almost 90% of fast food workers, 83% of customer service reps, and over 80% of laborers and freight movers. These aren't just abstract statistics. They represent millions and millions of people's livelihoods. The report gives this whole potential future a pretty dramatic name: the job shockwave. And the whole scenario is driven by something it calls artificial labor, which it describes as a deliberate corporate strategy to automate the tasks that humans are doing today. Now, this term, artificial labor, is really key to the whole report, so let's define it. The way they see it, it's the combination of AI, that's the thinking, the reasoning part, with automation, which is the physical or the digital doing part. So we're not just talking about robots on an assembly line anymore. We're talking about software that can write entire reports, trucks that can drive themselves, and AI that can handle thousands of customer service calls at once. But here's a really crucial point the report makes. This AI shockwave isn't just happening in a vacuum. It's actually the massive acceleration of a trend that's been going on for decades, something they call the Great Divergence. So what exactly has been diverging? And wow, this chart right here, it just lays out the report's core economic argument perfectly. Look at this. Since 1973, American worker productivity has just soared. It's up 150%. And corporate profits, they're up a whopping 370%. But then you look at real wages for the average worker, and they've actually gone down by about $30 a week. A huge, huge gap has opened up between the value our economy is creating and who's actually getting to keep that value. So you have to ask, how did we get this huge gap between productivity and pay? Well, the report points to what it sees as a critical factor: the decline of worker power. Back in 1945, more than a third of American workers were in a union, which gave them real collective bargaining power. Today, that number has just plummeted to only 9%. And while all this was happening, wages stagnating, worker power declining, the cost of the absolute essentials has just exploded. This creates what the report calls a double bind for the average family. Your paycheck isn't really growing, but the bills for the things you can't live without, like college, childcare, and healthcare, they're just soaring. It's an economic pressure cooker that the report says AI is about to turn up to high. Okay, so that brings us right up to today. The report details how corporations aren't just, thinking about this technology anymore. They are actively investing billions of dollars to deploy this new form of labor right now, as we speak. Sometimes the quiet part gets said out loud, and this is one of those times. The report points to this ad campaign from an AI company called Artisan. The message couldn't possibly be more direct. The entire goal is to replace human workers with AI agents. And here's another example for you. This one is pulled directly from a self-driving truck company's pitch to its own investors. The company Aurora lists no workers' compensation and no ongoing driver training as key benefits of its technology. So the report's point is, the financial incentive here isn't just about efficiency. It's explicitly about cutting labor costs and getting rid of liabilities. The report also gives us some really concrete examples. Take Amazon. They've laid off 27,000 people since 2022, while openly saying they expect AI to reduce their corporate workforce. Or look at Walmart. They've cut 70,000 jobs in 5 years, all while automating more than half of their fulfillment center volume. The report presents these as part of a clear pattern. Automation and big workforce reductions are happening at the exact same time. So, after all that, is mass job displacement just inevitable? Well, according to this analysis, the answer is no. The report argues that the outcome here isn't actually predetermined by the technology itself. It's going to be decided by the policy choices we make. The analysis basically lays out three different roads we could go down in the very near future. The first is cost-first automation. That's the one with mass job losses and a lot of downward pressure on wages. The second is an augmentation plateau, where, yeah, tasks get automated, but companies reduce their headcount more slowly. And the third is what they call worker-first deployment, a future where the economic gains from AI are deliberately shared with everybody through new policies. So, the big question is, which path are we on right now? The report's conclusion on this is, well, it's pretty stark. Based on the corporate behavior we've already seen and the current policy environment, it argues that the United States is currently barreling down that first path, cost-first automation. But the report doesn't just end there with the bad news. The entire final section is dedicated to laying out a detailed blueprint for how to actually get onto that third path, a future where the benefits of this incredible new technology are shared broadly, with everyone. And it proposes a whole suite of really bold policy ideas. I mean, these are aimed at fundamentally rewiring who benefits from automation. We're talking about things like moving to a 32-hour work week with no loss in pay, requiring big companies to share stock with their employees, giving workers actual seats on corporate boards, and even implementing a so-called robot tax to fund programs for workers. The goal of all these proposals is to make sure that the gains in productivity lift living standards for everybody, not just for shareholders. And that really brings us to the final central question of this entire report. We know technology is going to drive change. That's a given. The real question is, who gets to drive the benefits? And according to this analysis, that's not a question for some distant future. It's the choice that we are all making right now.